Some of London's most famous streets exist because of a river nobody can see. The western edge of Roman London was shaped by it. Medieval monasteries rose along its banks. One of the most notorious prisons in the city took its name from it. Even the Great Victorian sewer system was built partly because of it. For centuries, this river shaped the landscape here. And in many ways, it still does. The river hasn't gone anywhere. It's still flowing. And yet if you stand here today, there's no river in sight. Which leaves us with a curious question. How do you lose a river? High on the slopes of Hampstead Heath, rainwater gathers in small streams and ponds before beginning its slow journey southwards. These waters merge into a single course that flows towards the Thames, following the shallow but unmistakable valley they carved over thousands of years through what are now Camden, Clerkenwell and Holborn. London sits in a basin crossed by several such rivers. Most of them modest streams rather than great waterways, but they played a crucial role in shaping the earliest geography of settlement here. One of those rivers met the Thames near modern Blackfriars. Today its course is almost invisible, but you can still feel it. Farringdon Street still follows the line of the valley the river carved, and at Holborn, now crossed by a Victorian viaduct, the landscape it shaped still survives. That river is the Fleet. The name is ancient and comes from an Old English word for a tidal inlet or estuary. When the Romans founded the settlement of Londinium in the 1st century AD, they chose their location carefully. They settled on the north bank of the Thames, on ground shaped by two smaller rivers, the Walbrook flowing through the heart of the settlement and the Fleet marking its western edge. These rivers were not incidental to the city's layout. One ran through the city, the other marked the point where it gave way to open countryside. That edge didn't disappear when the Roman Empire did. The river's valley continued to guide the shape of the city that grew above and around it. The Fleet is no longer visible, but the line it marked can still be felt. In the medieval period, the Fleet was very much a living river. It's difficult now to imagine the scale of it, but later accounts record a ship's anchor being found as far north as Kentish Town Road, a sign of how much larger and more navigable the river had once been. The 16th century historian John Stow recorded that the Fleet had once been broad and deep enough for 10 or 12 ships at a time to make their way up to Fleet Bridge, roughly where Fleet Street and Ludgate Hill meet today, carrying merchandise into the city. The river was a working artery of trade. Its current powered mills. Turnmill Street, still there, still carrying that name, marks the site of the water mills that harnessed the river's flow descending from the northern hills. Coal ships travelled up the river to supply the growing city. Nearby, Old Sea Coal Lane preserves in its name the memory of the river it once served. The valley was also known for its springs. Clerkenwell itself takes its name from the wells that once bubbled up along the river's course. In a city where clean water was precious and often dangerous, these natural sources drew religious communities to settle here. Monasteries and priories rose along the Fleet's banks, the river sustaining not only commerce but contemplation. In medieval London, the Fleet was not hidden, it was central. But the Fleet was not only bound up with the city's trade and daily movement. Near its banks stood the Fleet Prison, one of London's most notorious institutions, giving the river a long and uneasy association with confinement and disgrace. Conditions were often brutal. Prisoners were required to pay fees for their own food and bedding. Those who could not pay went without. Yet the prison developed a particular notoriety beyond mere suffering. For a period, it became famous for conducting what were known as fleet marriages, quick, clandestine ceremonies performed outside the formal structures of the Church of England. Couples who wished to marry without the usual requirements, or in secret, could find willing clergymen near the prison. At one point, thousands of such marriages were being performed here annually. Many of London's problems had gathered along this same stretch of river: the imprisoned, the unregulated, the waste, the unwanted. The fleet ran through all of it. And the river was already beginning to suffer. Prisoners occasionally complained that foul vapours rising from the water caused illness. As London grew, the condition of the fleet deteriorated. Industries gathered along its banks. The slaughterhouses of nearby Smithfield discharged waste directly into the water. Tanneries, which used chemicals to treat leather, added their own effluent. The river that had powered mills and carried coal ships was becoming something else entirely. By the 17th century, the lower reaches of the Fleet had acquired a new name, the Fleet Ditch. Contemporary writers described the foul mixture of refuse and sewage that filled the channel. Ben Jonson wrote mockingly about the noxious vapours rising from the river's surface. Later, Jonathan Swift conjured an image of London after a rainstorm, the streets emptying torrents of filth towards the Fleet in a cascade of dead animals, rotting waste, and all the foul debris of the city. The Fleet had become a symbol, the dark mirror of the celebrated Thames, carrying the consequences of London's appetite for growth just out of sight. After the Great Fire of 1666, there was a moment when something different might have happened. Christopher Wren proposed transforming the Fleet into a proper canal. Stone embankments were built. A new bridge was constructed at Holborn. It was an ambitious vision, a navigable waterway running through the rebuilt city, something perhaps reminiscent of the canals of Amsterdam or Venice. Any improvement was short-lived. London was growing too quickly and too messily. The river soon fell back into its old state. A report from 1736 offers one measure of how far things had fallen. A butcher in the area had lost a boar, which went missing for a full month before being found. It emerged, floating, from the Fleet Ditch into the Thames. The Fleet was, by this point, less a river than a moving rubbish heap. By the 18th century, the city's solution was as simple as it was drastic: hide the river. From the 1730s onwards, sections of the Fleet were progressively enclosed within brick tunnels and arched over. Streets and markets were built above the buried channel. Over time, the Fleet disappeared from sight. Above ground, Farringdon Road now runs along much of its course. Holborn Viaduct spans the valley the river carved. The city still carries the shape of the river that now flows beneath it. But burying the Fleet did not solve the problem. It made it worse. Out of sight and out of mind, the buried channel became one of London's main drains, carrying not only rainwater, but the waste of entire neighbourhoods through an underground passage towards the Thames. Workers sent down to clear blockages reported tunnels clogged with broken pots, bottles, old hats, dead cats, and the general rubbish of a city that had found a very convenient place to put things it no longer wished to think about. London had not solved its problem, it had hidden it. By the 19th century, London faced a sanitation crisis on a scale the city could no longer contain. Its population had risen to more than 2 million people, and the old drainage system simply could not cope with the waste they produced. The buried rivers, the Fleet among them, discharged their contents into the Thames, and the Thames ran through the middle of the city. In 1855, the scientist Michael Faraday took a boat along the river to see for himself. What he observed alarmed him enough to write to the Times newspaper. The Thames had become an opaque, pale brown fluid. When he dropped pieces of white card into the water, they vanished within an inch of the surface. The whole river, he concluded, had become a real sewer. The situation was made worse by the tides. At low tide, the drains emptied their contents into the Thames. When the tide returned, the polluted water was pushed back upstream. The river didn't carry the sewage away, it simply moved it backwards and forwards through the heart of the city. Then came the summer of 1858. The smell rising from the Thames became so overwhelming that it drifted into the newly rebuilt Houses of Parliament. Members attempted to continue working. They couldn't. The stench drove them from the chamber. The newspapers called it the Great Stink. The engineer Joseph Bazalgette designed a vast network of intercepting sewers that carried London's sewage eastwards, with separate systems north and south of the Thames. These great tunnels intercepted the city's waste upstream, drawing it into a new sewer network instead of letting it continue through channels like the Fleet into the Thames. Instead of emptying at Blackfriars, the waste would be carried far downstream to new outfalls east of the city. To house parts of this system, new embankments were constructed along the river. The Victoria Embankment, one of the great achievements of Victorian London, conceals within it one of the principal sewers of Bazalgette's network. Beneath the elegant public promenade runs one of the largest drains the city had ever built. The Fleet became part of this system. By the late 19th century, adventurous visitors occasionally descended into its tunnels, wading through the channel in waterproof boots and oilskin coats, torches in hand, following one of the oldest waterways in London through the darkness beneath the city. Bazalgette sewers still carry much of London's waste today, but even they have struggled to keep pace with the modern city. In the 21st century, a new tunnel, the Thames Tideway Tunnel, has been built beneath the river. Its purpose is to capture overflow from London's ageing sewer system, including the Fleet outfall at Blackfriars. The buried river now flows within one of the largest underground drainage systems in the world. Even buried rivers can remind a city that they are still there. In 1846, the Fleet broke from its underground channels during heavy rain. Floodwater surged into the streets. Houses were inundated. A boat was smashed against Blackfriars Bridge. Today the Fleet continues its journey beneath Camden, Clerkenwell and Holborn before entering the Thames. Most Londoners pass over it every day without a thought. A river that defined the western edge of Roman London, that powered the medieval city's mills, that carried coal ships and gave its name to a street, a prison and even a form of marriage. A river that runs silently below the traffic and the pavements. On the corner of Warner Street and Ray Street in Clerkenwell, there's a metal grating set into the pavement. If you kneel beside it and hold still for a moment, you can hear the river moving below. But here, 5 meters beneath that grating, we can do something most passers-by can't. We can see the Fleet still flowing through the darkness. It's been underground for nearly 300 years. The city has been built and rebuilt above it. Centuries of London life have unfolded overhead. The press that gave Fleet Street its noise and its identity has long since moved on. The river doesn't know any of this. It simply flows.